Good morning, students. Welcome to the class. Students, in today's session, we are going to learn a new chapter, which is chapter 6. We're going to learn the poem on the grasshopper and the cricket by John Keats. Students, John Keats belonged to a very popular romantic era or romantic movement of English literature. Now, here we need to understand what is romantic or romantic era or romantic period of literature. Well, actually, romantic era or romantic period of literature was a movement, a phase, a period in English literature when the poets started writing the poems based on their feelings, emotions towards nature, any object, or any person. It was a shift from reality poems to imaginative poems. Students, before this movement, before this period of literature, usually the poets used to write realistic poems based on any facts or incidents. But now onwards, poets started writing about their feelings towards everything in the universe, whether it's a it's an object, it's a person, or anything. Most of the poems, however, are on nature. And here we have another poem which also explains the nature as beautiful as ever. Students, John Keats was born on October 31st, 1975. Oh, sorry. October 31st, 1795 in England and died on February 23rd, 1821 in Rome, Italy, in a very young age due to a fatal disease, tuberculosis. The Romantic era or period of literature started in the late 18th century and ended in the early 19th century. And after that came the Victorian period or Victorian era of literature. Some of the famous poets of this period are William Wordsworth, John Keats, Lord Byron, Percy Bysshe Shelley, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Some of his notable famous poems are Ode to a Nightingale, Sleep and Poetry, on first looking into Chapman's Homer and Endymion. The last one is also important as this poem gave a very beautiful quotation, that is, a thing of beauty is joy forever. Students, further I have explained some of the difficult words of the poem. Please go through please go through these words before you go through the poem, so that it can help you to understand the poem easily. Students, we will also discuss something about the style, the technique used in the present poem before we will try to understand the poem in detail. Let's move to the next slide and try to understand the literary style of the poem. Students, it's a the poem is a sonnet. It's written in the style of a sonnet. Now, what is a sonnet, or what are sonnets? Well, sonnets are the poems of 14 lines. Any poem which is written in 14 lines is known as, or is called, a sonnet. The present poem, when you will go through, you will find that it's written in 14 lines. That's why we will keep it in the category of a sonnet. Students, all the sonnets are not alike. Sonnets differ in style, structure, and that's why they have been categorized in two classes or two kinds, which are Petrarchan sonnet and Shakespearean sonnet. What is Petrarchan sonnet? It was introduced by an Italian poet, Petrarch, and that is why it is named Petrarchan sonnet on his name. It was introduced in 14th century, while Shakespearean sonnet, as the name suggests, it was introduced by the great William Shakespeare in 16th century, and that is why it is known as Shakespearean sonnet. Petrarchan sonnets differ in the structure of writing. As you will see, a Petrarchan sonnet has two stanzas, in which the first stanza consists of 8 lines and the second stanza has 6 lines. While Shakespearean sonnets have 4 stanzas, the first 3 stanzas are of 4 lines and the last one is of 2 lines. The rhyme scheme is also different for both kind of the sonnets. In one hand, Petrarchan sonnets has ABBA, and CDE rhyme scheme, while Shakespearean sonnets have ABAB, CD, EF, and GG rhyme scheme. The another thing that you need to understand in the poem is personification. We have already discussed a lot about personification in the previous class. Let's revise it once again. Personification is actually a literary technique, a literary device, or poetic device, or you can say it's a way of describing any inanimate object. Inanimate means non-living, or that is not human being. It's not non-living, it's not human being. So anything which is not a human being, when described as a human being by giving the characteristics of a human being, that kind of expression is known as personification. Now, what do you mean by human attributes or characters? We, the human being, have the special quality of attribute of thinking, walking, talking. These are the special attributes, characteristics that the human beings have been given, have been gifted. So, when any inanimate object is described as walking, talking, thinking of something, in that way, it is called, it has been personified or is an example of personification. I have listed some example here. It will help you to understand well. The first sentence says John Keats passed away in an early age. This is a simple expression, so it's not a personification. But in the next two expression, you can see death came and death embraced. Death has been described as a human being which came to John Keats and which embraced John Keats. Embracing and coming is the characteristics of human being. Only human being can do these things. So death has been personified here. Now, students, we will try to understand the poem in detail. Students, we come across a number of seasons during a year. In all the seasons, we do not find the nature alike. But do you think the nature is beautiful, ever attracting in all the seasons? Let us try to find out the answer here. Usually, students, we the human being like any particular season of the year, either spring or early winter or early summer. We don't like the winter or summer because these seasons make us uncomfortable. But is that the case about nature? Let us try to find it out. Students, the poem starts with the poetry of earth is never dead. The very first line emphasizes or attracts our attention towards our belief or thought. We, the human being, find only a particular season comfortable or pleasant for us, but in case of nature, in case of earth, it has been said that, it has been described that the nature is always beautiful, the nature is always as smiling, and it is never dead. The poetry of earth or nature is never dead. It continues in some form or other form. Further, the poet explains how the beauty, the song of nature continues across the seasons. When all the birds are faint with hot sun and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. That is the grasshoppers. He takes the lead in summer luxury. He has never done with his delights. For when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poet further describes that in summer seasons, usually birds and the animals feel restless. They find it very uncomfortable due to extreme heat and find any cool shelter to take rest. And it seems that the nature has come to an end, meaning there is no activity in nature's beauty has disappeared with the birds and the animals, with no voice of birds, with no running or movement of animals. It seems that the nature has come to a standstill, but it is not the case. It is the grasshopper that continues this tradition. It jumps from hedge to hedge, making a loud noise and keeping the nature alive. And it seems that its songs or its voice makes us feel that it never gets tired. And if he gets tired, it rests in some heap of grass. So, this is how in summer, when the birds and animals take rest in some cool shade of trees, it's the grasshopper that continues the tradition of nature. It carries on the song of the earth or the poetry of the earth by its loud voice. Now let's see the next stanza. The poetry of earth is ceasing never. On a lone winter evening, when the frost has wrought a silence, from the stove there shrills the cricket's song, in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshoppers among some grassy hills. In the second stanza, the poet emphasizes the same theme that even in winter, when there is a complete silence in the atmosphere, there is no human being outside of the house due to the frosty cold, due to extreme cold, and there seems a complete silence without the human being outside of the house. It seems that the earth has come to a standstill. But it's something different. What is the difference? It's the cricket that continues the song of the poetry, the song of the earth, the poetry of the earth, with its loud, shrill, noisy voice that comes from some grassy mound or heap of grass. This is how the poet concludes that the nature remains alive. The nature keeps smiling through one way or other way in all the weathers, in all the seasons of the year. Students, I hope I made you clear to understand the poem. So that's it for today. Thank you.